Hi, this is Codeweaver. I am back this evening again. I decided to do a little bit of sort of zen playing of Outer Wilds. I occasionally revisit this game because, frankly, I just love being in the space. I wish I could visit more worlds, have more story, and so on. And sadly, I don't think we'll ever have that opportunity. Although there's a non-trivial modding community putzing around with this just a little bit, but there are other bigger space games. I just find it comfortable to be here, frankly. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to do something that I've done before in one of my other streams, and I've gotten good enough at it that I can usually reproduce it. I'm going to, well, before I say what I'm going to do, I should say that I'm already getting spoilery here, but you should have probably gotten that from the title. The game is very sensitive to, or, well, I should say the game is best played blind. If you have any intention of playing this wonderful exploratory game with all these wonderful vistas to visit, the mysteries and the story, the background of all the races and all that, go play it. I try to start all of my streams on this game with that caveat. You're gonna see stuff you probably shouldn't. Probably not a lot because I'm not gonna go poking around in that vein, but you'll see stuff that you should experience yourself. Just go get the game. It's a wonderful game. You'll probably even find it on sale at some point. Pick it up. I loved it. Doesn't require a super huge amount of gaming experience to play. A little bit of comfort with working with 3D controls, because as you can see I'm walking around and you'll have to fly a spacecraft and whatever. Anyway, go play it. Anyway, that being said, I'm not going to dwell on that too long. I am going to attempt another landing on the sun station. I'm going to do it going the sort of proper way. This, by the way, is one of those achievements you can get if you're like super keen on the game. Totally not the way you're supposed to be doing this at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get myself in a gentle orbit around the sun. And to do that, I'm going to take my time. As you can see, I'm accelerating, and that would only be the case. It's blue. That means I'm accelerating towards the sun. Red is when I'm accelerating away from it. So gravity is pulling me in faster and faster. Because we're a ways out, it doesn't take very much change in your velocity in order to be able to get in close to the sun. Which is why I'm starting out slow, because as you can see, I'm really picking up speed. But if you come in too fast, you'll just hit the sun, and that just a bit of a waste of time. Oh, look at that. Look at that. I don't even have to establish a strong orbit. I might be able to catch it on this very first flyby. Am I going to be able to do this? It's going to be tricky because if I fiddle with my orbit too much, I'm just going to crash into the sun. Look at that. Oh, that's just a little bit precious. Oh. Chase it down, but be careful. Because when you're moving in a curved orbit, like you are when you're tight against the sun, up, down, left, and right do not behave like you think they do unless you're really, really close to the station. That's the only time when you can really trust that. Otherwise, you have to at least understand how your change in speed affects the way your orbits go. So my favorite way to do this, and this works most of the time, but not all the time, is to get myself comfortably tucked into this little curved nook here, face forward, because I'm going to have to eject. There's no place to land. And if you can do it just right, you'll be really, really close to this, and the station will be sort of orbiting around you. And the reason I want to do this is it takes me a little bit of time to look away and trigger this, but I also am going to end up slamming the ship into the station. Then I have to eject and get right out of my seat really fast, because if I'm not really careful about this, I'm going to do what I just did there. which is to bounce myself far enough away from the station that I am literally never going to catch up. So, yeah, I think I'm cooked here. quite literally. Yeah, that's not going to do. So the biggest problem there is, again, once you're far enough away from the station, first of all, you don't have a whole lot of thrust in your backpack. So changing your velocity a significant amount when you're that close is really hard. When you're really close to the station, it more or less behaves like up, down, left, and right. But when you start to get further and further away, you have to deal with the fact that you're on a very, very tight orbit, and that really dramatically affects how your orbit goes. And I'm not going to go into the whole orbital mechanics thing. That's probably best done in the tutorial in KSP, Kerbal Space Program, where you can actually see how your thrust affects the orbits. But the reason why that failed is largely because when I bounced off the craft and then tried to unbuckle, hang on a second. So I'm hitting. I gotta very lightly change my orbit by thrusting upward, incidentally, while facing it. So it just starts to increase. And at this distance, that's enough to drop me very near to the sun. Anyway, when I bounced, so the trick is I have to eject, but that thrusts me forward really, really fast. If you're not already super close to the station, you'll bounce off hard and probably in an unexpected direction. And you have to not only do that eject, you have to then unbuckle yourself from the ship and then let all the pieces tumble away. And so you got to bleed off some of that impact energy by... Oh my god. And I may be able to do it again. Can I do it again? Can I do it again? This happens to me being able to do it in one pass like this. Some amount of the time. It all depends on the timing when you leave home. Really, right? Obviously, you can time it, and it just turns out that if you leave right away and do what I just did, you can do what I just did, which is to get here in one pass. Often I have to set up a long orbit around the sun, tight orbit around the sun, but one that isn't the same distance as a space station, so that either it catches up to me or I catch up to it. But I didn't have to this time, so it's fine. So I'm going to try to do this again. I want to try to get facing into here, so that when I bounce off mostly backwards. Alright, let's try it. Oh, and come on, don't get too far away from the station. There we go. I think, unfortunately, you have to then turn around because the place that I choose to impact is on the wrong side of the station, to the only entrance we can get into, and we're doing it this cheaty way. Wow, it's not really cheaty, it's super awesome. I'm glad they made that not only doable, like it wasn't just a... I mean, they made this whole solar system nicely physics-based so that you can literally go anywhere and do anything that you could do in a rocket, in principle. And that's really, really cool. And the same thing goes with the sun station. They could have made it so that the only way to get to it would be to get to it from the normal way, the way that you are sanely supposed to get to it in the course of the game. Because that takes... you don't have to do it this way by any stretch. There's a way to do it that literally requires, once you know the trick, no skill, barely moving around like what I'm doing here. So if you're thinking of getting to the sun station and you think you have to do something super, super complicated, you really don't. But I really appreciate the fact that they not only made it possible to get to the station, it wasn't just something you could pass right through because you're never supposed to get it. They made it a physical thing so you could literally impact it. But that they even expected somebody to try to match orbits, which in a physically simulated universe is exactly what you could do to, like, they didn't make it so you burned up when you were that close to the station, which is nice. That close to the sun, as long as you were really careful, like what I did. So they made it possible to get down to this low in orbit. They made it possible to physically touch the station, and they made it possible to get in here. You can't get into the other half because the door only unlocks from the other side. But spoilers. I really appreciate the fact that they made it possible, and they made an achievement for it. And there was a. I did not actually find this out my first play through the game. I thought I was pretty thorough, but you know what? It's been like half a year at least, maybe more, since I first completed this game. And I am still finding new things, often through other people's Let's Plays. How awesome is that? And anyway, there is a message. There is a message you can find, and I'm not going to say where, that actually mentions someone doing a sun dive like I did. Even though it's not the normal way to do it. And that, if that doesn't give you the hint to try it, if you're not already if you like piloting spacecraft and you weren't already interested in piloting it, that gives sort of a little bit more of a push for somebody to try it out. Anyway, they didn't have to do it, and I'm glad they did. How pretty is that? Like, this is terrifyingly close. You can actually orbit closer to the sun than the sun station does and let it catch up to you. And I'm not going to try to do that because it takes a lot of fiddling around. Yeah. Spoilers, incidentally. So I have 5 minutes and 15 seconds. Fastest I've gotten here is about 8 minutes and 50 seconds left to go. Doing a stunt largely like what I did there. This one actually, if I'd bothered to check that arrival time, it might have been pretty close to what I could have done. Pretty close to the best I could have done. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get into the middle here. We're going to thrust downward. And then a little bit to the right. Now to the right. So I'm thrusting in the direction. Now up a little bit. Actually, I'm going to face the sun now. So as you can see, a little bit of thrust in the right direction if you know your orbital mechanics, and you can get way out here in a hurry. So let's see roughly what that looks like on the map. Look how far away I got. Isn't that nuts? I wonder, I might be able to make Brittle Hollow. There's that, but I don't want to thrust at it. Where's the sun? I actually want to thrust that way. Because I want to kind of... No, I'm already falling backward, aren't I? What I've now done, though, is circularized my orbit quite a bit. So that the periapsis, the closest point to the sun, has been raised. Okay, so I'm going to come in pretty fast. I'm going to come out the other side. I wonder if I'm going to be able to sling up and at Timber Hearth, because I'm going to come up out at least that far, and I'm going to be ahead of it when it happens. Where are you? So I'm going to come up and out. I need to actually go past Timber Hearth's orbit if I want to try to land on it. I don't know if I could land on it, but let's see if we can give ourselves a little bit of a boost. Because in order to make this work, I'm not going to do it, am I? Nope, I'm coming up too shallow. thrusting backwards there. Has that given me... There we go. Okay, so because this part of my orbit is out past Timberhearth, for this section of my orbit, I'm actually going to be moving slower than Timberhearth. So hopefully, I'm going to be able to let this come up behind me and kick me in the butt. And I might actually have to figure out how to do a little jiggery-pokery to slow down here. Because it's going to pass me right by, and I'm a little bit too far out. One of the really not obnoxious things about orbital mechanics is that you're almost never actually trying to fly straight at something. You're almost always trying to adjust your orbit so that... how are we doing here? Are we coming... Yeah, look at that. Can I? I can. I can actually land on the Attlerock, which may be a good initial stopping point, except this is going to be kind of a harsh landing. Oh, I made it. So there you go. I actually leapt from the sun station to the Attlerock. I'm feeling very zen right now. The question is, can I get all the way back? Well, yes, but since we're here anyway, let's grab some air. Hey, Esker, how you doing? Missed you, buddy. Hope you appreciate I'm still part of this space program. Yeah? Alright. Alright, so let's do a little planning here. If I want to get all the way back home, what I'm going to want to do, I want to basically head towards it, but I want it to creep up on me, so my change in velocity is relatively small. So what I think I'm going to do, I don't want to leave the Attlerock when the Attlerock is crossing the orbit at Timberhearth, because that'll add me impulse sort of out and away. If I do it when it's at 90 degrees, when it's sort of at the bottom of where my screen is right now, then I'll be getting again, I'm going to be getting a lot more forward motion just from the Attlerock, and that is going to actually fling me outward from the orbit. I kind of want to go... I don't want to go backward in the orbit either, though. Doing it at the opposite side, so on the bottom of my screen now, that's going to actually slow me down and actually lower. That's going to slow me down, which means that the other end of my orbit is going to be closer to the sun. So what I think I want to do is I actually want to leave it at the bottom of my screen, like when it's at that corner, like in a few seconds. I want to go basically... No, what I'm going to do, actually, is I'm going to leap off of it actually here, and I'm going to bleed off at the bottom of my screen. When the orbit gets to the bottom of my screen, I'm going to go straight up towards Timberhearth, which is going to push me basically towards Timberhearth and sort of away from the sun. But then I'm going to slow down a little bit, I think. It's probably a better way to plan this out, but I just don't want to do any math. I'm kind of tired of math. Alright, whoa. Alright, so... Oh, that was kind of the spot where I wanted to do that. Oh well, let's give this a go. Alright. What I want to do, if I can, is hit the planet like super obliquely, like just, oh geez, just skim the surface. Ah, there we go. I probably didn't have to be that careful. The change in velocity in this tiny little solar system going from the moon to the planet is not super extreme. You can survive quite a bit. What I do want to do, though, is get to the equator. All right, that's about the equator, yeah. Not quite, a little bit further. There we go. All right, so up I go. Oh, came off the equator a bit, but that's all right. Getting myself up some, getting myself some speed here. Unfortunately, one of the big problems oh boy. Alright. Well, we're going to come in close to the coast matter here. Alright. I need to get myself some altitude, and this is not helping. So what I was trying to do is to get into orbit around the equator. But part of the problem with that is, aside from the fact that I keep walking into the water. Jeez. Alright. Really? Just having one of those days where I just can't hop up this rock quite the way I want to. There we go. Okay, yeah, up here. I was trying to get into orbit because I felt like chasing our satellite. It's a lot easier to do when you have a spacecraft. It's somewhat more difficult to do. In the absence of said spacecraft. Alright, so using oxygen as propellant is simply not cool. Even though I have an infinite amount of it here. Oh, hey, I have somebody come into my chat room. I don't know how long you've been here. I don't even know if you're still there. Hi, Plastic Ape. Long time no chat. Boy, I just never pay attention to my chat room, do I? Oh, hello. There is our probe. Yeah, I was heading to bed, haha. Yeah, I'm just goofing off, obviously. I mean, you know I've completed this a long time ago. I'm just here because of the serenity of it all. You did the sun dive. I didn't know that was possible. Yeah, I did a previous stream on that. Actually, it's not the first time I've done that. Now I've gotten actually so good at it now I can almost do it on demand. But it's not the first time I've done it. So, I'm loving these jumps. Yeah, right. I actually managed to get from the first time I did the sun dive, I actually did an escape at the very last minute, and I tried to get back to, I can't remember if it was Timber Hearth or Brittle Hollow, but I impacted the surface and didn't quite stick the landing. This time I was a little bit more diligent about how I was doing the planetary approach, and I was a little more patient, and I made it all the way back to Timber Hearth. spaceshipless. Which does kind of demonstrate that the crazy speedrunners who can do the game without a ship, it is possible. It is insane, but it is possible. Unfortunately, I don't have any fuel right now, so I've been trying to make my way back to the main area just to get it. I mean, I could cheat and just restart the loop, but what's the fun in that, right? I have a time limit, and when the loop ends, that's all she wrote. Yeah, so today I decided to do the sun dive, then a little bit of escapism. I'm going to see if I can chase off after the orbiting probe as my last stunt this cycle, I think. See if I can do that spaceshipless. Not that easy, actually, because it's in the atmosphere. Oh, jeez. Alright, I gotta get some fuel. Which means... actually, that's an interesting problem. Where the heck do I get fuel on Timber Hearth? Because normally you have your spaceship here. Oh, well, I guess I'm not going chasing off after the... I can't remember if there's fuel down here. I mean, I'm not going to have enough time now to get the fuel and escape, but let's... there any fuel anywhere in here? I don't think there is. And I can't get into one spacesuit while I'm in another spacesuit. That's great. The one planet I land on, fuelless, and I can't get more fuel. That's just fantastic. I'm gonna have to think if I can, for a future episode, if there's anywhere I can actually get fuel on Timber Hearth without having a spaceship here. Intriguing. It never even occurred to me because there's pit stops all over everywhere else. Boom. And that's probably all she wrote, folks. Can we even get out of here before the inevitable... Oh yeah, look at that. Hey, we got a front row seat. Anyway, that is going to be the end of my stream for tonight, but it was lovely having Plastic Ape stop by for a brief moment. And, I did the Sherlock thing earlier this evening, and I just needed something to mellow out before I crash. And I just love being in this space. I'm gonna have to look for some mods just to putz around with this a little bit more. But the modding community has done some neat stuff about like adding an extra planet or two, but nothing super detailed like this. This is more like programmatically generated stuff, curating the kind of worlds that they created in this. That would probably be, well, I wouldn't say it's beyond the modding community. The modding community is completely bonkers for lots and lots of games out there. But it hasn't happened yet. But, yeah. Anyway. That was pretty cool. Have a good night. Sherlock Holmes looks tough. Yeah, it's thrown me for a loop. But, anyway. Thanks for joining me, Plastic Ape, and for anybody else who sees the stream after the fact as Code Weaver, and I'll see you in the next stream. Thanks so much.